Well, hi there. Welcome to the Connexus channel. I'm Jeff Brodie, the lead pastor at Connexus. And back in March, as a church, we decided to make an investment in Partners International and what they were doing in Moldova as people were fleeing the war in Ukraine. And I wanted to give you an update today and give you an opportunity to hear right on the ground what God is doing. And so I've got Tim Arkell here from Partners International. Tim, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Partners and then introduce the guests we have with us?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. Great to be here with you all. Partners International, if you don't know us, we partner with local leaders around the globe in very challenging places. And so our partnerships go deep and long. And today we have our partner here, Sergei from Moldova. And Moldova is, if you don't know, is Europe's poorest country. And despite the significance and the challenges they face, the ministry and the types of work that they are doing for the kingdom are incredible. And Sergei is going to share with us today about that. So, Sergei, I'll give that over to you and Jeff. I'm looking forward to this. Guys, be ready. This is going to be an exciting time as Sergei shares with us.
Yeah, Sergei, welcome. So great to have you. And Tim, thanks for all you're doing with Partners. And it was a joy to be able to invest financially in this. And thanks to the generosity of those of you at Connexus. And I wanted you to we wanted to hear it firsthand from you, Sergei. So first of all, some people may have seen you on video. We shared some video of you earlier in the year this year, but it's great to have you live. We were supposed to meet in person, but you were struggling to get here to Canada. So hopefully one day we'll get to meet face to face. But Sergei, talk to us a little bit about your ministry prior to the war. Before the war, what were you doing as far as a ministry goes? And then we'll kind of talk about what's happened from there.
Hi, and thank you, Jeff, for this wide introduction. Team, thank you as well. And it is, as we say here, if we Eastern Europeans say we will briefly share and respond on this question, don't believe it's at least 45 minutes one response.
You sound like a preacher.
Oh yeah, it's usual. And actually, Beginning of Life exists since 2000 as a part of the bigger church here in Chisinau, and we have been before the war. We have been all the time focused on bringing the impact and changes, differences in the most vulnerable places, most vulnerable families, and especially youngsters, because as you probably know, Moldova have experienced since the fall of Soviet Union. We have been part of Soviet Union as Ukraine and other countries who now struggle because of these aspires of the reconstruction of the former, unfortunately to say. And we have been working with the youngsters, especially young generation, because due to the labor migration and really spike of human trafficking and other social, most acute problems, church have been light and salt in these, especially neighborhoods of the cities. And before the war, we have been serving hundreds of young people in the schools, in the neighborhoods. We have been bringing to them non-formal and most active form of education to really change their perspective in life and to give them a better understanding of God's true love and God's calling for their life. But at the same time, we have been focused on really traumatized people, because working for over decade with people who survived from trafficking, domestic violence, and other forms of exploitation. Actually, this really gave us an enormous experience of really serving and helping people to restore, to find healing after the deep trauma, after deep yeah, meeting with evil in all its forms, unfortunately. And this is what we have been doing. Yeah, as most of the people in the world, we have been serving people during the pandemics, which we jumped from the pandemics into the war situation. So it
Right. So
was
you were already dealing with the
really,
pandemic, serving your
yeah,
community in the pandemic. Then millions of people are fleeing Ukraine and
it
coming
was
to and many of them coming. How many people came to Moldova, do they think?
at the moment, actually, in comparison to local population, we have received the biggest number of refugees flowing through the country.
Right.
At the moment, it's over 760, 80,000
Wow.
of
Wow. And
people.
so you had to
And those who
react.
stay, oh yeah,
You had to react. So
that
tell me
was
about those early days, Sergei. Tell me about the early days
always,
you had to respond.
he pushed me into, very high emotions because it was very unexpected. And first days it was big flow of cars. So Chisinau was full of Ukrainian cars. But that was first wave. Those people who had this opportunity to really react quickly and move. Yeah, mostly people, rich people who have been very fast. But at that moment when you already have shared with us your great donation, partners have been joined very quickly into that process. Actually, in the March, especially in March, there was hundreds, thousands of people, mostly women and children, and this is the great specifics of Ukrainian refugee crisis. 80% of those is women and children, and people were moving without cars. They were walking 20 kilometers, and
Wow.
at that moment it was freezing everything around, and people were getting somehow outside Ukraine because of the huge, terrible fights that have started there. And everyone, so the whole country, all the churches have jumped on the border, to the borders, jumped with their cars, with their very limited resources. And praise God, he really moved the hearts of so different people to really react well, not thinking of ourselves, but helping, giving a helping hand to people who really needed help. And the first time in Chisinau, at somewhere in April, actually, I still remember that moment when we had already a hotline. We have been helping people to accommodate, to be transported, to receive all their food packages, all the needed, bed linens. Because people, you can imagine, people were getting out of their homes and out of their lives with a small luggage, which oftentimes they were throwing at the crossing of the border because they couldn't bury it, and children and suitcases. So they were
too much.
throwing and they were getting into Chisinau, our capital city. They were getting with their own clothing, no additional things, only children and small stuff and documents. And this really helped us to understand. And at some moment, the Chisinau was full, so no places at all.
Wow.
We were finding somewhere in our rural areas, the place for people to stay overnight at least. Some people, at the moment, we have over 120,000 Ukrainians who stay. Most of them just don't want to leave elsewhere. Moldova is also unusual, or best place for them because we speak both Romanian and Russian. We share the same cultural and historical background, and because of that, we understand them, and they can share their thoughts, their troubles with us, and this really helps people. And most of people who stay in Moldova still dream to get back to their homes, despite most of them don't have already home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just walking alongside people with their physical needs and their spiritual needs, also their mental needs as far as the trauma they've experienced and the displacement that they've experienced. And you had a hotline at the beginning, you were saying, to try to help people find places, and you're responding, get food to people. Where do people stay? Where do they go? People are, in a sense, are traumatized by what they've experienced. And then that's sort of early days, I'm sure, very tiring, very emotional days. I can't imagine what that would be like. And then, like, what happens in an ongoing way? What's happened kind of since those initial days? Because I would say, the war, those who've been displaced, gets a lot more media coverage here in the early days, and then as time goes on, often it gets less media coverage. And so I would love to hear kind of what's happened since then. What are the situations you've kind of been facing in an ongoing way since the initial kind of refugee displacement?
Yeah, actually, beginning of life, together with partners, have been engaging in humanitarian side of relief side of at the first, I would say, 9-10 months, because the flow was huge. But within this period, already since April, when the huge wave have been already stopping, we already have realized how many deeply traumatized people are coming. Some were traumatized that they lost their home. Some were sitting in Mariupol or in Kharkov or Mykolaiv for weeks in the basements, and this really showed us that we need to use. Actually, I need to admit, we didn't change much in our approach, because we believe that God called us to bring a holistic impact into people's lives, as God does, and at the same time, having this experience with working with traumatized victims of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and different forms of exploitation actually helped us to bring this experience into the groups and individual consultations and group art therapy. This really what we have been doing before, and we have integrated and included Ukrainian people into our therapy groups. And at the moment we have at least 10 groups, or 9 groups for women. We have men's group, which is growing, and this is very unusual. And we decided from December last year, we decided to move more in a more focused way into providing a healing and restoration for people, because we understand now, and government and big organizations, humanitarian organization, they can provide food parcels and some humanitarian stuff, but not all of them can provide a deep experience and deep understanding of how to bring healing.
Right.
And especially when we say that this healing comes from the clear perspective of how God really intends that, it helps much to go much deeper into restoration and reintegration of these people, despite many of them. So we have one lady, she's military. She have moved from Donbass in 2014 when her military section was covered, so surrounded by Russian troops. Maybe I don't need to say that, but this is true. And she moved into other side of Ukraine, and 24th February, and she was by her husband have died, being wounded, and she moved because of the bad health. She also was traumatized, and she was let go out of the country. And she still have a suitcase staying in front of her door of the rented apartment. So she still wants to go back home when it will be done. And you can imagine a lady who stay with a suitcase prepared to leave in front door the whole year.
Wow.
And when she comes here, first time she didn't want to talk at all. But coming again and again, every new, you can imagine, it's very emotional. When you hear the voice of this lady, when you hear the voice of her child, that she really finds peace. There's God's shalom.
Right.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
And that's great gift from God for us to see this change.
Yeah. It's so powerful. It's very emotional, and very powerful I just am so amazed by how because you have worked in human trafficking before the war, as you were saying, how prepared, in some senses you were equipped and prepared and ready, as ready as you can be, to walk with people to bring healing, spiritual healing, emotional healing, mental healing, and point those people to who God is in their darkest times. It's just overwhelming to me to think about how God positioned you in that way. Very, very powerful.
God somehow have prepared an infrastructure, and restoration center, and youth center, and center for early child development, education, all was prepared. And when it all started, people just jumped into it together with local people.
Right.
We decided in this process that it will be much healthier to people and Moldovans and Ukrainians to be mixed, because this way they can be integrated much better, because we don't know how and when it will end up.
Yeah. It's a very emotional thing to think about, wanting to go home and never knowing when or if. It's hard to put yourself in those shoes. It's hard to imagine it, but when you do start to imagine it, you realize how hard it must be, emotionally on people.
I have seen, in the first days of war, I can share my personal experience. My younger daughter, by then she was 10. She have found in our backyard. She have found her small pink suitcase. When she have heard what we are talking about, what is happening around, and she found her suitcase, she packed her things into this suitcase, and she have found a basket for the cat. And when I saw that she brings, it still really pushed my heart out, because when I saw how she brings her pink suitcase and cat's basket in front door, and talks to the cat that, look, we need to be prepared. Soldiers can come. So, and that was, for me, I saw how in these huge crises, a huge change of circumstances, the young girl reacts, how
Right.
she perceived what is happening around. And this really pushed me again even more to serve these children when I was staying in overnight in our urban center, opening people from Kharkov, and saw the same 10, 12-year-old girls and boys. I saw they are the same as my girl.
Right.
So we need to share as much love, as much acceptance as we can, because God really called us to do.
Yeah.
And we just on a mission despite the context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is
So powerful. Sergei, I would love to just hear, there's what you're doing in Moldova, and then I know you have a network of churches as well in Ukraine. Talk about what's happening with those churches as well, just so people have an idea what's happening on one side of the border and what's happening on the other side of the border.
Oh, that is another big gift from God, knowing many different leaders and their teams in Ukraine. And not only we have been before the war, we have been working in the whole region. Because actually, we need to admit that after the Soviet Union collapse, there was remaining a lot. We have Transnistria, there is Nagorno-Karabakh, Ukrainian, Donbass as well, appeared just recently, and all these huge line. We call this Southern Belt because it was really surrounded by these strange conflicts, hot areas where everyone were conflicting and killing each other. And actually, last year we decided we need to help somehow people who are struggling, because we understand probably military are receiving enough support in these circumstances, but local people who are moving back and forth from their communities, as you see probably on the news, even small communities are destroyed completely, so they disappear from the map. In reality, and these people are moving from one community to another, and so we have connected these leaders, and we're bringing, and together with partners, we have brought around 15 humanitarian raids into Ukraine.
Okay.
Requests were much higher than we could cover, but not only us. God is moving different people. But this, now we are in the process again. Despite there is still a hot, process of the battles in this eastern and southern Ukraine, we continue to support these leaders and their teams, and as they are serving much wider local people. Sometimes, going into under the bullets and missiles, flying over their heads, they continue to move on the front line to serve, to help people to find some food, or just hear the voice of a pastor who says God still loves you despite all that, which is very important. And now we are starting the process of sharing and helping these leaders to build up the network of counselors, or counseling groups who will take care of the displaced people in Ukraine. We are doing the same with the refugees here, and they are working with displaced people. They are building up the teams and helping them to restore, to find some healing. I understand that it's hard to, one just couple weeks ago, one lady with her teenage boy popped up on our front door of the center, and I thought, oh, maybe she was passing by and entered it, but she said, no, we just came from Ukraine, and how. And I saw she doesn't have her suitcase. So where is your stuff? I don't have. She just saw. She never come out of her community, rural community in South Ukraine, and she saw these drones. Yeah, Iranian or some kind of drones flying over her house. She was so crazy scared. She brought her child and ran away into Moldova, knowing that in Moldova someone will help her.
Right.
She came to the bus station, and in the bus station, local drivers say, "Oh, go up to the hill on the city, and there is a volunteering or helping center. You will find." She jumped into without money, without stuff. So she was totally. She didn't know what she's doing. Actually, from my perspective,
Right.
it was crazy to go overnight somewhere into the other country, other city. But when she jumped into a trolley bus, local public transportation, she asked the local taxpayer, or no, it's the person who sells the tickets.
Oh,
And she says,
yeah.
"Oh, where is helping center here?" And she says, "Oh, there is, up to the street, there is church. Go there, they will help you." It was 8. I don't know. God really pushed me to stay until 8 p.m. here, and we were already closing the doors.
And she
And
just
she
showed
showed
up.
up there, and I asked, "But how you? If we would close the door?" And she said, "Oh, we would probably sleep on a bench outside in the park. But there is -10.
Yeah.
How you would sleep there?"
It's the same.
And she says, "I
Same
don't
here.
know. I was just so scared, and I jumped into that."
Wow.
And she says, "Oh, just God have led me probably to you." And she ended up. We were already picking her and her son and going into different local refugee placement centers, and they were closed. And we moved and found, because of our network, we have found the place for her.
Place for her.
And
Yeah.
now she's safe. And people in the placement center were so surprised. They saw her and asked, "Where is your luggage?" "I don't have." "Do you have any clothing?" "No." "Do you have your brush?" And I said, "No, I have nothing."
She just saw the drones and left.
Yeah, and left. Just she didn't plan to leave, but despite the blackout, despite the power disconnection, so she didn't want to leave her house,
Right.
and she left her old elderly father back home. But despite that, they decided we need to move, and this is the reality of war anywhere.
Right. Anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sergei, it's amazing. The work you're doing is so important, and your English is very good, by the way. But what you're doing is
Thank
so
you.
important. I would love to know how we can be praying for you in this time.
First of all, we need and we believe that God really, through His church, global church, supports all the ministries. And now, with these 9 groups, actually together with Moldovan and mixed groups, there is over 15 groups here in Chisinau. We serve, and this is a real battle, spiritual warfare, and we realize that we need to be supported by the church in this process, as we see how the evil of war have destroyed God's souls, people's and souls and hearts and minds, and now we are in a hard and long-term process of restoring what was ruined. This is first, for people whom we serve, And there is another important issue, the peace and stability in Moldova, because we found ourselves in a very ambiguous situation when politicians say that there will be attempts to destabilize the situation, and a lot discussion goes on about Transnistria, which is 40 kilometers from Chisinau, and all that actually really brings a lot of instability in the hearts of people. We would like you to pray about our team, because they are under the great pressure emotionally and spiritually, but they are giving all they have. But we understand as a team, we see that we have 30 people and we have 50 volunteers, and we see how they are trying to give their best and how difficult it is for them. So if you can support us in this,
Sure.
and probably this great partnership with partners, you have jumped into that as we found out. This partnership and collaboration between different missions, different churches, to be continuing, because news will stop talking about that when something else will happen around, but people will stay. And this partnership, really, church is the most stable institutions in the world. And because it's created by God.
Right.
That's why we need to be supported, and in prayer and in encouragement by our partners in different places. So
I love it. Church is the most stable institution in the world because it's created by God. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, let me pray. And Tim, I want to thank you for connecting us with Sergei through Partners International. It's been a real privilege for us to be a small part of the amazing work that he's doing with his team there. And I just want to, Sergei, take a moment and pray for you and for your team, if we want to do that. God, I just lift up Sergei, his team to you. Just pray your protection for them. Pray that they would know the presence of your Spirit with them in a real tangible way. I pray that you would strengthen them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and that you would be giving Sergei the wisdom to lead them well. We do pray for peace and stabilization in the Moldova area, in particular around Chisinau and the capital, where they are, that there would be just a sense of stability and that there would be continued peace. And we do pray for a resolution to all of this conflict, knowing that not only is it a physical thing, but it's a spiritual thing. And so we do bring that to you today. And we do pray that you would continue to mobilize. Thank you for all of those who've mobilized, who are making an incredible difference. We pray for continued ability to mobilize people, continued resources to reach out to people, and just that beginning of life and the urban center would continue to be a beacon of hope to those who are looking for healing on the outside and healing on the inside. And we pray this in your name. Amen.